Good. Sort of.
Long process.
Mobile though.
Mobile.
That's good.
Crutches are gone.
Yeah.
They gave me a 30 degrees of bend yesterday, so I feel
Yeah. PTs multiple times a week.
3 times a week.
Like stretch you a couple extra degrees. Times.
Have fun, but
It's your ACL, right?
Yeah.
let's do this. They keep asking if I remember it from last time, but it was about 23 years ago, and I don't remember a thing. All done differently now too. They should healing.
Just make a couple of small holes. Right?
Well,
Or
there's
did
like
they have to
There's
make a
one
big incision?
incision, but it's not as, they use a cadaver now for, and like if you're over 25, or they recommend it.
Oh, really?
So it's just a big enough hole, it's like about an inch. I guess, and then,
Much less intrusive than previously though.
yeah.
Yep.
I
I think there's gonna be enough people.
We're not quorum yet, so this might be a meeting with those members present or any actions taken or simply the consensus of those members present.
Was almost every street is state.
Yeah.
roads, except for Mount, literally except for like this. Mountain Spray Road and
First time town's ever done map like this before.
yeah. That's correct. I just, did that yesterday in like 15 minutes, I just highlighted all of these main drags. Which is basically where you want them.
Yeah.
We also have trail locations, but
Yeah,
I mean, those would be part of it. I didn't have those yet.
we should probably give people a few extra minutes.
Okay. It must be.
There's a lot of work going on these streets. Might need to park someplace.
1000% over here.
We appreciate the work going on.
They must have chosen
Thank you.
like the new term.
That's where I,
Yeah.
that's where I parked the other day. Wow, very nice.
I was like, you add on like. Now my office is the shape. No.
Yesterday was.
Do we need to put-
Yesterday was this bad too.
7.
It was here yesterday.
Yeah.
It was shaved. They had up the word on it, Ben came later and.
Staff was,
Like way later, like 1 p.m.
there's only one vote, so yeah, you don't have a quorum.
7?
Very interesting.
Yeah. I came in, it's like.
Adam can. 7?
I think this is 8, RCC is 7, I get mixed up.
So we could proceed, there's people participating online. I think maybe we did warn people about construction, so it's not necessarily surprising that we'd have participation online today because of that, but
I'm actually going home on vacation for next week, leaving from here. So we're gonna make this a quick meeting.
all right.
We're going.
Well, nowhere this weekend, but I'm going to Montana next week.
Oh, wow.
Visit my son out there.
Nice. I think we probably proceed whenever you're ready. We can't take any action or anything today, though.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission MPO Technical Advisory Committee meeting, March 16th, 2023, Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. We do not have a quorum apparently, so, but why don't we go around for introductions? I'm Bruce Thomas from the town of Hooksett. You are?
Nate Miller, staff.
George Sears, Town Dairy.
Kristen Clark, Manchester.
Anthony Summers, staff.
Andrew Lapa, data collection assistant.
Suzanne Nienaber, staff of the commission.
Amy Zamoyski, staff of the commission.
Benjamin Herbert, staff / regional mobility manager for the Greater Manchester Dairy Salem area. Adam Lavney, staff.
David Tilton, staff.
And it looks like on the screen, we have William Rose. I'm not sure where you're from, William.
Hey, good morning, William Rose, DOT.
Mark Schuin,
Cleghorn, Manchester.
Mark Sunan, town of New Boston.
we have Sylvia,
Morning, everybody. Sylvia Von Aulock with the SNHPC.
and Cam,
Hi everyone, Cam Perlman with the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission.
we have Zach,
Zach Swick with the commission.
and Ricky Cilillo,
Morning, everyone. Ricky DeSillo here with NHDES.
and Jack Cleghorn.
No.
Jason Cleghorn, excuse me.
Jason Cleghorn, City of Manchester.
And I believe that's it.
Lee Levine.
What?
Lee Levine.
Oh, Lee
Good morning.
Levine.
Good morning, everybody. Lee Levine, Federal Highway Administration.
Oh,
We also have Andrew Haddock from the town of Chester joining us right now.
Yep. Okay, well, anyway, so we have to hold off on the review of the meeting notes from the last, looks like there's several weeks. Or several months to review. First item of new business is the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission Public Participation Plan with Suzanne Nienaber, Senior Planner.
Right. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Do I open it first? I share screen first and then. Oh, shoot. I think.
Yeah, you can open
yeah.
Power. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just need to let you know that I think when we passed the host control over to you, we lost our co-host ability. So I need you to remake us co-hosts so that we can share screen.
Okay, I think I just did.
Okay, cool.
And if you,
There we go.
okay,
We're all set.
nice.
Okay. So I'm sharing my screen and I'm going full screen right now. It's a little animation. Cam, can you see that all right?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, thank you, everybody. Great to be with you this morning. Today, I'm going to be talking about our public participation plan update. For those of you who are at our March TAC meeting, some of the content will be familiar, but we're at an important moment because right now the update is open for public comment. It was posted on May 12th. The public comment period will close on June 26th, and we will be, while we don't have a quorum, we will be looking for a recommendation from folks in this group to the MPO to adopt the update when they meet next at the end of the month. So I'm going to walk us through kind of a high level overview of the contents. Can I make that go away? Let me try to move it down here. We'll see if that works. Okay, so the contents of the public participation plan. There's an introduction talking about why we're doing this work, and there's a lot of reasons for it. I think being transparent about our approaches to public participation is really essential for building trust with community members and our stakeholders. We are also meeting really important federal requirements to make sure that we're being very clear about how to approach this work. So it's a really important document for us. Chapter 2 outlines our goals and strategies, and Chapter 3 looks at our approaches and techniques for how we implement public participation efforts. Chapter 4 gives an overview of how this aligns with our overarching MPO planning process. And Chapter 5 summarizes some performance measures for how we'll track and evaluate our efforts. I'm going to focus on 3 areas where there's really been substantive change since our last public participation plan. And as I go through this, I'm also going to highlight a few public comments under consideration. When we presented to this draft to the MPO last month, we had a really fantastic dynamic conversation. And I think a lot of their input qualifies as a cohesive kind of public commentary. So I have a few suggestions of things we will be updating. So if you've read the draft, there'll just be some minor updates and I'll highlight those today. Okay, so looking at revised goals and strategies. Again, this was in your packet, so I'm not going to do kind of a word-for-word review of all of the changes, but I'll just kind of call attention to a few highlights that may be of interest. So our first goal is to expand access to inclusive public engagement opportunities. And we really think it's essential to capture the diverse perspectives of our region, right? We're working with 14 different municipalities, a lot of different qualities and characteristics and demographics in each of these. And we need to make sure that we're doing what we can to get as many folks weighing in on the future of our region. We want to be providing a variety of opportunities to engage. I think the example of our kind of transition to doing regular hybrid meetings is a really important element of making sure people can engage as they can. We specifically want to target traditionally underserved communities and mitigate barriers to engagement. We know that we can do more to bring people to the table who might have barriers related to language or disability, or transportation access or internet access, and that's going to be really important to kind of broadening our scope of who we're connecting with. And then finally, we want to meet people where they are by dovetailing our outreach efforts with existing things that are already happening in the community. And on that note, a couple of things that got highlighted at the last MPO. There was a recognition that, it's important to call attention to wanting to welcome in more diverse representation in terms of who we connect with in the planning process, in the transportation planning process. And a really great comment was that we should be trying to integrate photos that highlight more of the diversity of our region. Folks recognize that there's a lot of the current photography in the update are people who are white, able-bodied. And so we are kind of scouring our system for more diverse photography. Also, if folks on the commission have participated in events or kind of any outreach efforts that you think would be valuable to help kind of illustrate this welcoming in of diversity and really wanting to expand our reach, I would very much be open and really encourage you to feel free to send photography my way and we will find a way to integrate that. The other thing that kind of came up in terms of meeting people where they are, the commissioners mentioned that a lot of different community groups are looking for speakers on a regular basis. And we wanted to make it as easy as possible for folks to request a presentation about topics that matter to them. So we are currently working on creating a pretty simple Google form. So people can write in, say, this is an issue that my group cares about. We'd like to identify a speaker from the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission who can tell us more about this effort. So that is something that's currently in the works, and we'll find a way to kind of update our language accordingly in the public participation plan. Our second goal is to grow public awareness of regional priorities, activities, and programs. So one of the things we're aspiring to do in the coming year is to really refine our brand and reinforce familiarity with who is the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. And that's through kind of our visual identity, through having really cohesive messaging that everyone's using. Another thing we want to do is make sure that to the greatest degree possible, our public facing materials are very accessible, very legible, kind of graphically compelling. So we'll be working on that. And another thing to highlight is that we think it's really valuable to leverage our existing community resource networks. So whether that's our libraries, our various town newsletters, our RCC and various transportation providers, there's a lot of different networks that we can do a better job of tapping in order to get key messaging out about the transportation planning process. One thing that, Andrew, who's our intern for the summer, he's actually reaching out to all the town newspapers right now to make sure we have a good point of contact and understanding of when deadlines are for kind of submitting any materials. Our third goal is to strengthen stakeholder partnerships and ensure input is reflected in regional planning products. And with this, kind of some key highlights here are to continue to convene very active, engaged advisory groups. We want to leverage local knowledge and expertise. And when we have a particular topic that can really benefit from a local community perspective, we wanted to do our best to really keep that advisory group very active and, and really feeling a sense of ownership of that work. And with that in mind, we want to develop compelling and user-friendly materials that our partners can adapt and share with their own networks. So for example, sample social media posts, we're always asking folks to help us get the word out. One thing that came up during the NPO is how valuable it would be to have shareable slide decks, right? Like I think a lot of folks the commissioners want to, take ownership of the transportation planning work we're doing. And where possible, if we can give a short, kind of 5-minute slide deck that can provide a cohesive orientation that anybody can use, that can make a really big difference. So we'll be integrating that as well. And then our fourth goal is to assess how are we doing by evaluating public participation approaches. So this really comes down to our performance measures, right? It's hard to know how successful you are until you get really deliberate about tracking your progress and really having some key things to measure. So this team has done a great job of setting up a series of performance measures, and we will be revisiting those quarterly and assessing how we're doing. And with that in mind, another kind of objective within our goal is to embrace flexibility. We want to be able to take a candid look at our progress, and where needed, we can pivot approaches. We don't have to do things the way we've always done it if it's not getting the results we're hoping for in terms of our performance measures. So that's just another highlight for our fourth goal. So this is moving into chapter 3, where we dig into engagement approaches and really providing a strategic framework for understanding what's in our toolbox. How are we actually going to kind of undertake our public participation efforts on a day-to-day basis? I have this chart, the spectrum of public participation. I actually have a few hard copies here. If Dave, do you mind just passing those around the room? I think for folks who are looking at a screen, it's easy to kind of squint and lean in, but for folks in the room, this might be hard to see. So I just have a few hard copies for you. What we really wanted to clarify with this chart is the notion that public participation is not a one-time thing. It's not like we did a survey, that was it. Or we hosted a workshop and that was all the public participation we need. What we want to really reflect on is that everything we do in terms of public participation really exists on a spectrum in terms of how much we're engaging the public in decision-making. So you can see in the far left column, that's inform. That's something that we really, legally need to be doing on a regular basis just to keep people apprised of the activities of SNHPC. So whether that's our newspaper notices, our website resources, our newsletters, our social media, all of that's really important for informing. Moving down the line, consulting is where we're asking the public for their input. So we're gathering input, we're gathering insights from folks who live in the region, and we do that through surveys, through public comment periods, et cetera. Starts to get becomes more of a dialogue as we shift over to involve. And here we're really wanting to have conversations and make sure that local assets, that local challenges are reflected in everything that we're doing. And so these often require a little bit more heavy investment of our time and energy to host a public workshop, to schedule focus groups, or to kind of plan a big public outreach event. Getting into collaboration, I think here we're looking at supporting community leaders to play a role in the decision-making. And whether we're talking about our stakeholder advisory groups, our ad hoc committees that come together on a particular issue, when Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission staff gets involved in regular committee participation with any local organization or regional or state organization, we really see that part of the collaborative effort. And then the last column is empowering, right? Like, how are we fostering democratic, community-driven decision-making and implementation throughout our work? And I think what we see manifesting here is that we do have these regional leadership bodies who are emblematic of this empowerment work, right? So the folks in this room, the folks who come to MPO, to RCC, our executive committee, they're really essential in terms of shaping the future of this region. And then one highlight, and I think this kind of feeds into some of the comments you heard earlier in relation to slide decks. MPO was really interested in us doing more with the YouTube resources, right? Can we not just have a slide deck available, but have a 2 to 3 minute presentation that they could link to and just play, right? I think that the more we can provide information through YouTube, the more useful that is for a lot of the different stakeholders and commissioners that we're working with. Okay, and then finally, I'll just do a really quick run through of some of the performance measures that we're going to be tracking, and we've already started doing it. This team is going to get together in July to kind of look at the last quarter and see how our systems are working. But we're really dividing our efforts in terms of like who's tracking what, everybody's doing different elements of this work. So there's a few different areas that we're kind of categories where we're tracking performance measures. One is in terms of our systematic efforts. So we're looking at, what's regularly occurring, what's integrated into the larger state and regional and local systems. And that's, our ongoing attendance at meetings like this, the number of committees that we're involved with, and if and when we offer testimony in any type of legislative hearing. The next item is B, tailored outreach activities. This is when we start to get creative and strategize independently related to a particular project need. For example, the climate workshop we held in Derry in April, that's an example of kind of very tailored and was really supporting a unique topic for us. And it might be also about addressing our broader public participation goals. So with these, our performance measures are the number and type of public outreach events we're doing, the number of participants there, and the number of meetings where we are intentionally targeting any traditionally underrepresented stakeholders and advocacy groups. And we want to really elevate that as a point of reflection in everything we do. And then surveys, that's something else we do regularly and we track, and we just kind of keeping a running list of all of the surveys we're conducting and number of responses. We're also looking at our regular publications, whether those are issued and published by us, like our newsletters and media blast, or whether we're looking at stuff we write that other folks publish, or where we show up in local journalism, right? We want to make sure we're really systematic about tracking, where are people learning about SNHPC? We also want to reflect on how many times we're translating materials for our stakeholders with limited English proficiency. And so we can also look at growing our email list and hopefully keep continuing to expand that as well. With website and social media, we are able to do regular kind of quarterly data analytics, just using the tools available on our website with Google Analytics, with Facebook, and with YouTube. So we have a list of indicators we're tracking on that front. And then finally, we really see the mobility management work as an important point of contact. For many people, this is their first time ever interacting with SNHPC. So Ben has a very long list of performance indicators that he's working on in mobility management. And we handpicked a couple that we want to reflect on because we think they're important points of intersection with the general public. So we're tracking the number and type of mobility management outreach events that he's undertaking, and also tracking the number of transportation referrals that we're processing. So when people click the I need a ride, and they're connecting with Ben and he's helping them find transportation options, we want to be really making sure we're tracking that as well. So that's all I have. Wanted to open it up for any questions or any discussion or recommendations from the room.
I know we can't vote on this, but I guess I'd make a motion to recommend that Southern Hampshire Planning Commission MPO adopt the Southern Hampshire Planning Commission public petition plan. Just I know we can't vote on it, but is that what you would say?
Yeah, I think so, right?
Yeah, I don't think you can.
It can't be a formal.
It can't be a formal motion, but perhaps we can pass along the consensus of those members present.
That sounds good.
Can we vote on a consensus?
You could ask if anybody doesn't agree.
Yeah, if there's any.
Is there anyone who does not agree that this should be adopted? All right. Looks like we have a consensus to accept the plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I just want to add thanks to Suzanne. I think She just brings so many new ideas to the commission, and I really appreciate also that this gives incentive to, I think, all our staff for sort of an internal self-assessment and internal accountability to make sure we are reaching out to stakeholders that we haven't in the past. And I really appreciate the effort. So thank you so much, Suzanne.
Oh, yeah, this has been a collaborative group effort with coming up with our new goals and our performance measures. So thanks to everybody from the staff. Yeah.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is Southern Hampshire Planning Commission Region Plan for EV Infrastructure by Tammy Zamowski.
Can everybody see the full screen at home?
Yep.
Okay. So since I just presented on the EV plan for you all in April, I'm going to keep this really short and sweet. At our last meeting, we went through all of the proposed sites for EV charging stations and did a prioritization exercise. So after we did that, I reached out to our working group and I showed them our prioritizations. I also shared it with any relevant town staff and got their feedback, and then I incorporated all of it into our draft plan. So after that, I posted it to our website. So we're in a 30-day public comment period right now, which began on May 26th. So we posted this on our website. We posted it in a newsletter. We put it on our social media channels, and we also did a press release in the Union Leader in both English and Spanish. So we are just looking for a recommendation for the MPO to adopt this plan on June 27th. I know that we can't make a formal recommendation today, but.
That's just ask a question.
Huh?
Can I just ask a question for Tammy? Yeah, so have you got any responses on the 30-day comment, public hearing comment?
We got one. It was from the town of Auburn, and I can read it if you'd like.
Yeah, I just curious what the response is, because.
Sure. So this is a resident of Auburn. Says, I strongly encourage you to object to the 3 proposed sites for the regional EV plan within the town of Auburn, New Hampshire. Auburn is a quiet and small, quaint town that takes pride in being rural. While we benefit from being so close to Manchester, we all choose to live in Auburn instead of Manchester because we did not want the downsides which come with that of a big city, specifically the infrastructure. 2 of the proposed locations, Griffin Free Public Library and Auburn Police Department, are right in the heart of Auburn. They are not immediately off the highway. You would have people driving into town who do not live there, hooking up their vehicle to a charger, and then hanging around for several hours. Auburn in that area has almost 0 activities for someone to take part in while they waited several hours for their car to charge in that area. The Sunoco gas station as well, while it might be right off the highway, there isn't any place easily walkable for someone to go and spend hours on time waiting for their vehicle to charge. With the time that it takes for an electric vehicle to charge, they should be put in place where there are ample businesses around that someone could go and spend several hours at. The Mall of New Hampshire would be the perfect place if you were going to put one in, or a park and ride where someone would not be coming back to their vehicle for quite some time. As stereotypical as it is, when you have people hanging around with nothing to do, that is when a town encounters its most trouble. With those few comments, I encourage you to strongly object to Auburn being a potential site for the regional EV plan. There would be very little benefit to the town with mostly downside. Any other questions?
It's actually a good idea. It's a little devious, but can help with economic development by putting the charging stations where the money could be spent. Well said.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is Complete Streets Toolkit.
Might want to just,
I apologize again, Bruce. Do you want me to, so what we did last one, just give an informal recommendation since we can't
Oh,
vote again?
sure.
Okay, I'll. Do you want me to do the wording? Is that good?
Sure.
Recommend that the Southern Hampshire Planning MPO adopt the Southern Hampshire Planning Region Plan for Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Development. I know it's not a formal motion, but for the record.
Thank you.
Does anybody disagree with that recommendation? Okay, looks like we have a consensus for that also. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next I'll be giving you a sneak peek on the Complete Streets Toolkit update. Back in 2017, our staff put together a really great, really comprehensive Complete Streets Toolkit, and now we are just doing a nice little refresh of the toolkit. So the main sections are an overview of complete streets, the history, the benefits. And then we have sections for planning and policy, which includes a lot of local and regional examples from around New England. And then there's the design and engineering section as well. It's not very technical. We have a lot of ideas and different types of infrastructure that we point to, but we really just reference all of the other standards and guidelines that are out there. And then there's also a section on the steering committee and the pilot projects that were completed as part of the 2016 and 17 toolkit. So there have been some updates to the standards and guidelines. So again, this is just kind of a refresh of the plan to make sure that everything is up to date. So these are two examples from AASHTO and one from the Global Design Cities Initiative that we referenced in the plan or in the toolkit. So this time around, we're just going through and making sure that we include links to all of the latest and greatest resources. We're making sure that all of our narratives reflect the current best practices. And we've also added new local, regional, national, and even some international examples of complete streets. So we looked at some other complete street toolkits and policies while we were updating our own. One of my very favorite ones is from the city of Hoboken, New Jersey. They've been in the news a lot recently because they have developed a really robust Vision Zero program. And the result of that has been 0 traffic deaths in the last 4 years, which is a huge accomplishment. We also updated some of our international examples. So last year I completed the Bikeable City Masterclass in Copenhagen, Denmark. And this was one of the big takeaways. This was something that they shared with us. This is the Copenhagen guidelines for design of road projects. So I try to pull out some of the relevant examples that we might be inspired by for our own region. We've also updated a lot of our regional examples. So these are 2 complete streets projects that have taken place since the last update in 2017. The one on the left is a before and after of the Maple Street diet here in Manchester. And then the one on the right is a road diet on Route 13 in Goffstown. We've also highlighted some of the education and training opportunities that have taken place in our region since then, including the Complete Streets Conference, which some of our staff participated in. You can see Adam in the photo up here. As well as the New Hampshire DOT and FHWA Designing for Bicyclist Safety Training that was held here in Manchester last year. For design and engineering, we've just made a few little updates. These are some of my 2 favorite graphics from the FHWA Bikeway Design Guide. So on the left, we have the bicyclist user design profiles. So it breaks up people into how comfortable they feel riding on the road. So you can see that most people are in the interested but concerned category. So they would like to ride a bike, but there's no safe infrastructure, so they won't do it. So on the, sorry, that was on the left. On the right, we have preferred bikeway type selection. So I've included this for urban as well as rural communities in our toolkit. So this shows that you can look at the number of vehicles per day on a road and the speed, and it recommends different types of infrastructure for the cyclists that you are trying to attract. This is another one that I really like. These are speed cushions, and I believe this is in Cincinnati, but now they're all over the country. So these are similar to speed humps or speed tables, except that they're more accommodating for emergency vehicles. So you can see here that the speed hump doesn't go all the way across the lane, and that's so vehicles with a wider wheelbase can just drive right through it and not have to slow down. But passenger vehicles still have to slow down. So it's a nice traffic calming alternative. Last year I was in Boston for the NACDO conference when the Orange Line shut down. So I got to experience firsthand a lot of the temporary pop-up solutions that they implemented. And one of my favorites was this bus and bike only lane. So since a lot of people were normally taking the Orange Line, and they couldn't do that, they were trying to get most of those people to use buses instead of driving. So in order to increase the efficiency of transit, they closed some of the travel lanes to buses only. And one of the unintended benefits that they realized was that emergency vehicles could use these as well. One of the nice things about having a temporary project is a lot of these were just marked off with cones or flex posts. So these emergency vehicles could just drive right over them and respond to emergencies quicker. So that was just a sneak peek. There are a lot of other exciting things in the toolkit. We're going to be wrapping that up by the end of this month. And then over the coming years, we are going to be putting together a model complete streets policy template. And we'll also be offering technical assistance for customizing and adopting the policy if your community is interested. And on the right here, we have a screenshot of the best complete streets policies of 2023 from Smart Growth America. So we'll be using that as a tool on the guide. Any questions? Anybody online?
Yeah, just an appreciation, Tammy, that you're utilizing what you've learned at the different workshops and conferences across the globe, we can say. And that's really great. And I did notice the completely flattened, flexible cone in that Boston shot. So yeah, that was interesting. But thank you so much for utilizing everything you've been learning.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? All right, thank you. Is there any other business?
Bruce, I do know that Ricky DeSillo from New Hampshire DES would like to take a couple minutes and brief the TAC about a program that they're going to be introducing shortly.
Okay.
Ricky, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Let me see if I can share my screen if that's possible. Just tab over to that. Oh, I cannot share my screen.
Ricky, I just made you a co-host, so let me know if that works for you.
Now I can share my screen. All right. Can everyone see this singular slide I have up?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So I am Ricky DeSilla from NHDES's Air Resources Division. We have this brand new grant program that just opened. I really wanted to have the chance to share this with you all, not just because I live in your region, but this is a really big opportunity. This is a $10 million program called Granite State Clean Fleets. It is only available to local government entities like municipalities, school districts, and transit agencies. It's from the VW Trust funding, and this will be a competitive selection to reduce diesel emissions. You might have heard me talk about the New Hampshire Clean Diesel program in the past, which is also open right now and has a broader category of what it can do and what who can apply to it. However, this program, while it's a little bit more limited than that one, can fund much higher percentages. This program, if you are replacing a diesel vehicle for a new diesel vehicle, it can fund up to 80% of the cost. And if you're replacing it with an electric vehicle, if you want to get one of these new electric school buses or electric garbage trucks, which are these incredibly cool new technology. It's very safe and very effective. This program can fund 95% of that cost, including the cost of the charger and any infrastructure upgrades you may need to make that charger viable. I'm highlighting that because if you look at our other programs, even programs like the EPA Clean School Bus program, they aren't able to fund all of that infrastructure. And a lot of that can be the costly, prohibitive thing for a lot of smaller towns or even larger cities. And that is something that we will consider funding through this program. Again, it's a competitive selection. So we are hoping to see some really, really cool projects that will help towns and cities and school districts throughout the state. Like I said, there's a slightly more limited selection of vehicles that this can affect as opposed to our clean diesel program. Whereas the clean diesel program can fund construction equipment like wheeled loaders and bulldozers and graders and things like that. This one is mostly looking at vehicles. There's a few niche like port handling forklift kind of things that can also fund, but it's looking at mostly at buses and trucks of 2009 or older. And again, if your town or city has such things and is looking to replace them either with a new diesel or with an electric version, this could be a great opportunity. We're going to have a webinar on June 30th where we're going to get into the details of this program, how it works, how it could be the best program for you, or maybe how to figure out if the DERA program, the clean diesel program, is better. But either way, proposals for this are due in October. So plenty of time to work with utilities to figure out what kind of electrical upgrades you'll need. Probably have time to look at your fleets and figure out which sort of vehicles you are ready to replace. Unlike our other program, this does not have a requirement that the bus has to run, say, 7,000 miles a year, which is how the clean diesel program works. So if that's been holding you back in the past, this is a good way around that. And again, this is a much higher funding percentage at 80% for diesel, 95% for EVs. I'll send this slide out. Hopefully this can circulate for the TAC. And I'm the person to contact about this. I wrote the RFP. I kind of know a little bit about it. And the link is all going to be on here too. If there's any questions I can answer right now, I'd love to address them. I'm also looking for any feedback. If someone has any questions, it's always good to know what kind of thing I should be addressing when it comes time to that webinar.
When you say you're going to get this notice out, who are you sending it to, or how are you sending it out?
Let's see. Well, I've sent this out. I'm going to be sending this out to our mailing lists first and foremost. I'll also be sending it out to, I think I usually send things out to Linda, but I guess anyone at the TAC who wants to volunteer to be my recipient for this would be really appreciated.
Yeah, Ricky, if you send it to either, Linda or myself or anybody on our staff, we're happy to help spread the word through our channels, social media, making our MPO and TAC members aware through emails. We have a constant contact media blast that goes to a larger email contact list that we can help spread the word about as well.
Thanks. We really appreciate this. It's $10 million. And even though electric vehicles and infrastructure can be expensive, that's still going to be a lot of money that I want to be able to move out into the communities. So the more eyes we get on this, the better. So I really appreciate that.
I did see, Bruce, that Mark Sunan had raised his hand. I can't see the audience, but I saw.
Mark, did you have a question?
I do. Thank you. So Ricky, $10 million, is that just New Hampshire, or is that a statewide a nationwide 10 million?
This is just New Hampshire. This is only applicable to New Hampshire municipalities and school districts and transit agencies.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And there's no maximum or minimum. If you have a gigantic project that you can propose that, your town has a lot of buses, you want to go all electric and it's going to cost $9.5 million or $10 million, go ahead and propose it. And if it's a tiny thing, you've got one single bus that just needs to be replaced with a new diesel bus, it's not going to cost a ton, go ahead and propose it.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
That's exciting stuff, Ricky. Thanks for sharing that with us. Yeah, like I said, we're happy to help spread the word.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other business?
Yeah, I can give a quick 2-3 minute mobility management update.
Sure.
May have noticed that there's a stack of posters over by the sign-in sheet and the agendas. A lot of the work that I do as mobility manager involves promoting community transportation throughout the region, whether I'm being a point of contact for people struggling with finding transportation, or if I'm updating our regional directory services. If you may remember that, that's what I talked about last TAC meeting.
Ben, I'm gonna interrupt real quick. It's real hard to hear you if you're online. Can you maybe move closer to the microphone?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cool. So yeah, so as I was saying, like I do a lot of work promoting community transportation throughout the region, whether it be updating the directory, if I'm going to events, educating people, or if I'm like the point of contact for people who are struggling to find services. And lately, I actually created posters for all of the 20 municipalities within my region. Just a quick reminder, my region is different than Southern New Hampshire Planning's region. My region encompasses 20 towns, where SNHBC encompasses 14 towns. But I did provide a poster for each town here in the meeting, with the exception of Francistown because they're not a part of my region. I also have the posters available online. You just go to snhbc.org and go to Transportation Mobility Management, and you'll find them there. And I also have my next issue of the newsletter coming out by the end of this month. So if anybody wants to be on the email list for that, feel free to let me know, and I'd be happy to add you to that.
Any questions? Thank you. Any other business?
One more 2-minute presentation, but I'm very visual, so I did another slide deck. It's just a quick announcement. Yesterday, we submitted our application to be recognized as a bicycle-friendly business. The League of American Bicyclists has a Bicycle Friendly America program where they recognize communities, businesses, universities, and states that are bicycle friendly. And bicycle friendly is scored on 5 different sets of criteria. So there was an engineering section in the application, education component, encouragement, evaluation and planning, and equity and inclusion. Those are the 5 E's. There are 4 different tiers of being bicycle friendly: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And there are currently 7 bicycle friendly businesses in New Hampshire, including our colleagues at the Central New Hampshire Planning Commission and New Hampshire DOT. They're both bronze, so if we can get a bronze or maybe a silver, I'd be very happy. As you can see on the map, if we do get an award, we would be the first in the Southern New Hampshire region. So I think that's pretty exciting. And not only did I want to go through this process to recognize all of the accomplishments that we have as an organization to become bicycle friendly, but I'd also like to use this as an opportunity to encourage and inspire other businesses or universities or communities in our region into becoming more bicycle friendly. So we should get our results in September, so we will let you know.
Thank you. Any questions? This subject? Okay, any other business?
Yes. What was that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, so I'd like to give a quick SAIDS update. So Andrew and I will be performing SAIDS inventory this season. Last week we attended a training, provided technical guidance for performing these inventories. Next Wednesday we'll start field work. We'll begin in Narville with our goal of finishing up Goffstown and then starting on Hooksett this season. So where we're at right now with SAIDS, we'll provide more updates, throughout the season as available. Any questions?
Anthony, for those who might not know what SAID stands for, maybe a little bit on that.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
And it would also help if you got a little bit closer to the mic as well.
Okay, yeah. The disc right here, I believe. Yeah, so SAIDS is the statewide asset data exchange system. So it's a standardized process for collecting and sharing transportation asset data across New Hampshire. So we'll be focusing on sidewalks, curb ramps, and crosswalks. We'll collect through an application, essentially data about condition of infrastructure that we inventory. So if there are any questions, please follow up now or be in touch with me.
And for the record, I think you were also inviting communities who were interested in having any sidewalk inventory assessed and recorded. Is that correct?
Yeah, certainly. If there are communities that are interested, please be in contact. We can put you in the queue.
Okay.
So who's using that information?
So communities, essentially, the folks that we're forming this for, they could use that. It's also open to anyone to access. There's a website that tracks us through map. So
Is it like GIS data?
it is, yeah. Yeah, and I can follow up with that information if you're interested.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, I guess I would just note that on June 27th, that's Tuesday, June 27th is our MPO meeting. And in addition to the MPO holding their public hearings to consider adopting the public participation plan and the regional EV infrastructure plan, we'll also be welcoming Commissioner Bill Cass of New Hampshire DOT. Commissioner Cass will be talking about his goals as commissioner and what he's trying to, his goals for and objectives for leading the department in his new role as commissioner, as well as highlighting some of the statewide projects that are happening at DOT that may affect our region. So if any TAC members have an interest in hearing, Commissioner Cass's remarks at our June 27th meeting, feel free to Zoom in or join us at that meeting. You're more than happy to, or more than welcome to attend if you have the interest and availability. 11:30 in the morning on June 27th. So we will have Commissioner Cass first on the agenda and then move into the public hearings for the two plan adoptions from there. So just in the shameless plug category, I'll put a plug in for the June 27th meeting.
I can tell you that I was at a conference last month and he spoke at that, so I probably heard the same speech.
It did go up.
It wasn't too bad.
There you go.
Anyway, anything else?
So Nate, quick question. Will he address the very recent funding direction or changes associated with the exit 6 and 7 projects on 293?
I don't know if he is going to address that specifically. We could always ask him about that. I can ask him to highlight, or if there's anything that the MPO needs to know about recent changes to the exit 6 and 7 project, I would ask him to highlight that. Otherwise, we did advise him that we'd leave some time for questions from MPO members. That may be a question that comes up. There are other projects in the region. So if that's something, Mark, that you think we should ask him to specifically address, we can do that.
Only because they're talking now 6 or 8 years of delay as opposed to 2 or 3.
Okay. I'll ask him to summarize the current thinking related to that project.
By the way, just to add to that, on the NHDOT website, under the specific project information tab, has everything about those projects and has the contact information for the project manager, so could probably call them as well. Anyway. Is that it? No other issues? All right, I don't think we need a motion to adjourn, but if people don't mind, we'll adjourn.
Anybody
you.
opposed can stick around.
Thank you.